Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Math with Mr. W. And here we are again with our topic, geometry. This time, our topic underneath that is not angles, but triangles. Triangles, something that many of your students will be introduced to this year or have already been introduced to. And we're going to be talking today about how we describe them in terms of their sides and in terms of their angles. First of all, we all know that a triangle has three sides and it has three angles. But what do we call it when all the angles are the same? So let's talk first of all about the angles. What is it when all the angles are the same? So if I decide that all the angles are exactly the same, I call that triangle equiangular. Equiangular. I know it's a tough word, but it's something we can learn. Equiangular. Now, another type of naming would be a right triangle. One that's commonly known, and it's there when one of the angles, just one of the angles, is a right angle. It has one right angle. And now, what if one of our angles is bigger than 90 degrees? Such as this triangle right here. It's called obtuse. Just like the angle being an obtuse angle, it's an obtuse triangle. This was a right angle, it's a right triangle. Obtuse angle, obtuse triangle. Easy to remember. And finally, what happens when all the angles are smaller than 90? We call it acute. So based on the sizes of the angles, we have four different names. Again, acute when they're all smaller than 90, right when one angle is 90, obtuse when one angle is bigger than 90, and last but not least, if all the angles are the same, we call it equiangular. Now let's think about the sides of the triangle. If the triangle has all three sides the same, exactly the same, that's called equilateral. Equilateral. Lateral meaning to the side, so it's equa to the side. Equilateral. So we have an equilateral triangle, means all three sides are exactly the same. And you might ask your students if they've ever seen any of these triangles out in the real world. Where do we see those? Okay? Ask them, where have you seen those? Now, the next one has two sides the same. And this is one where they may have seen a lot of these out in the real world. And you might ask them again, where do you see these? Okay? So, if they've been to San Francisco and they've seen that big building in the middle of town, I call it CRY here, but it has two sides the same. And it's called isosceles. It's an isosceles triangle because it has two sides the same. So this is an isosceles triangle that has two sides exactly the same. So again, it's the sides that are the same that makes it an isosceles triangle. All right, now, lastly, what do I have a triangle that has no sides the same? They're just three sides of a triangle and they're just different. Well, that one is called scalene. Scalene. So we have three types of triangles that are named based on the number of sides that are equal. Equilateral, all sides the same. Isosceles, two sides the same. And scalene, no sides the same. Now, what I'd like you folks to do to make this a benefit for all your students is maybe make 4 different types of triangles and put your class into groups of 4, where each one in the group has a different kind of triangle. And every person has a protractor. And have them measure each of the angles of their triangles. Now have them add up or give you the sum of the measures of the angles of that triangle, of their triangle. So someone's going to have a right triangle. What's the sum of the measures of that triangle? Someone's going to have a scalene triangle. What's the sum of the measures of that triangle? What about this one? It's equilateral. They're all going to be the same. So what's the sum of it? It's going to be 3 times one of the angles. And what about the isosceles triangle? How is that going to turn out? So you have 4 different types of triangles, or you might choose an obtuse, a right, an acute, and a isosceles, and leave the equilateral out. The point is, you want them to measure each of the angles in the triangle. That's really the important thing. And add the angle sizes up. Once they've done that and gotten their sum, then ask what their sum is. And at this point, they may already have known the answer, but if they don't know the answer, hopefully they will be surprised. Enjoy your day. Have a good time teaching. See you next time on Math with Mr. W.